Happy Wednesday. I've got announcements for us all. And, I was just thinking, I was back there reviewing the announcements. There are announcements, but I also think it's really cool because it's just like, it should be like called a community board, or, this is such a great sense of who our community is and what we do and how we manifest amazing things here that are just outside of this service proper. So anyway, here are our community announcements. And my name is Vincent Tapaldo. I'm on the Board of Trustees. I'm the treasurer for the center, and so welcome. This Sunday, May 4th, we're welcoming Tim Ringgold for a workshop called Soul Care in Troubling Times. It's a musical grief workshop using music to relieve grief and the stress that comes with it. And there's flyers for it out in the lobby. So this sounds like a really unique experience that we're doing for the first time. And I understand that Tim is really seasoned in this area, so it should be really good. The Men's Spirit Group meeting is this Monday, May 5th at 7 p.m. Our Labyrinth Walk will be on Wednesday, May 7th after service. So, wow, I'm seeing these May dates, and it's like time marches on, right? Mark Ruth, our very own Mark Ruth, is having a workshop on Saturday, May 10th at 10 a.m. called Stop, Look, and Listen. And this is all about honing our listening skills. Reverend Gregory Toole is offering a Fear to Faith workshop Sunday, May 18th from 12:30 to 2:30 p.m. This is a healing workshop to reground our faith during times of change. So, Thursday, May 10th is our study group in Spanish with the book This Thing Called You by Ernest Holmes, and that's at noon on Thursday, May 10th. Our next ecstatic dance is on Thursday, May 10th at 6 p.m. And Ryan Aguchi is in the back helping out with AV team, so I think Ryan is the DJ for the ecstatic dance events, so thank you, Ryan. We are looking for fun, able-bodied volunteers that can help set up in Richelieu Hall for events. Mainly it involves setting up chairs and tables. It's sporadically for about 1 hour at a time, and if you're interested, you could sign up at the front desk. We welcome all of you who are new to our community to attend a free discovery class on May 25th after service. This is a great way to get all your questions answered about the Center for Spiritual Living and learn about the teaching, philosophy, organization, and history. And my understanding is the discovery class is kind of one of the requirements for being official member here now too, so please attend. Looking ahead, we have our Women's Circle on Sunday, May 16th. Also a concert and dance party on Friday, May 16th. That's a busy day. And we're excited to have Jamie Lula in concert on Sunday, June 22nd. Flyers are available on the activity table. Our Sunshine Kids Club is launching an email newsletter. This is a place to see all the exciting things kids have done, will do, and upcoming social events. Please sign up at the front desk after service with your email address. We encourage everyone to sign up, even if you do not have a child in the program, so you can see the fun things we are doing. It's an easy way to spread the word, forwarding it to people you know with children. And I don't know if you guys know Robin, who's heading up that program, but she's such a dynamic part of our community, and she's doing a great job with the kids. So, just a reminder that we have the food donation table, so whenever you can, even if it's just once a week, if you could just bring a can of food or a bag of rice or anything that's dry good and not perishable, and it supports the greater community in needs. For a full list of activities, see the weekly e-newsletter, Spirit Speaks magazine, and the activity table. And there's a new Spirit Speaks that Doris was just putting out this morning for May, June, so grab a copy. Visit our bookstore for a hand-picked selection of books and gifts to enrich your spiritual journey. And a big thank you to all the wonderful volunteers. We appreciate you so much.
Thank you.
And our speaker today is Reverend Katherine McKinney. Welcome.
Good morning, everyone, from me. And so I want to begin as we come together in consciousness for just this quiet moment of invocation. I take a breath every time I move into that space. I close my eyes simply to remove those visual distractions that may bother me. And so I allow myself simply to stay in the place that I am, opening my breath, my consciousness, and the idea that I am here for something to happen. I open my consciousness to ideas, to experiences, to all the richness that comes from simply being in this room. In this room where for 78 years, consciousness, happiness, growth, everything has been happening. And the spirit of all that lives in the room, in the curtains, in the chairs, and it rises up and moves through all of us as we simply allow the good to move through. It's delightful for me to think about the souls that are in this room, visiting, being. And so in gratitude to simply be here, to be a voice of word moving through now, I allow myself to be grateful to release this word and know, and so it is. As I was moving, through the prayer and imagining how many people used to be here, recalling, I used to do, a number of us have over time, guided meditations. I did them about once a week. And in times of doing that, I remember sitting in a chair right there in the aisle, and I could literally, in my mind's eye, just see this room filled with people who were here in spirit. It was just a feeling because so many people have moved through this center. There was a time when we were overflowing, and I was not here during that time, but I've heard about them, and I've seen the pictures on the walls of people who have made a difference in this center. So I was just feeling that presence. And there's a thin veil between all of this. So I allow the good spirits of all to fill us as we go. Speaking of which, I am talking today about let it flow. I thought about this some weeks ago, and I'm not sure I remember exactly what stimulated me to pick those words, but I can easily imagine it's because almost every day, almost every morning, I am thinking about that concept, that idea of staying in that flow of goodness, because I truly believe that there's only one God, one power, only one creation, and God is in all of it, every itty-bitty bit of creation. And all of the living things are points of creation in that consciousness of what is going on in the world. I am a point. You are a point. I sometimes think of the metaphor of a thread in the tapestry of, or a point in the whole scheme of. And as small as each of us may be in our imagination, we're vital. One thread that's loose in the tapestry makes a difference. And every one of us in our consciousness contributes to that whole. And I want my contribution to be the highest and best it can be. And I do that by letting that goodness flow through me. Because I think as far as God, Spirit, the divine is, it's always flowing. It doesn't stop. What happens is I allow things to get in the way from time to time. In my mind, I use a metaphor of a stream. I've sat beside streams, a beautiful stream. There are trees that are overhanging, so it's sort of dappled water. And there are rocks that are throughout the stream, and the water is flowing. And the water goes around the rocks. It goes over some of the rocks that are small. And if there's enough of a rock, it'll sort of dam up the flow. And that's what we are. We are in the flow constantly. And so if that flow gets interrupted, it's because we're one of those bigger rocks, and maybe it's not completely blocked. There are things going around, but something bothers us. And so we are blocking some of that flow of goodness. And so that is probably what stimulated what I'm talking about today. In the Science of Mind textbook, and what I call section 2 of the Science of Mind textbook, these 4 sections Ernest Holmes added later on, the way it works is number 2. It's very short. It seems like it's about 7 pages. And the key of that whole section is it, meaning God, the power, works for us by working through us. That's the flow that we're talking about. If I put a magnifying glass on those words, I might say, God is sending to conscious and individualized expressions through us. And see, we're all individualized, so that is a given. But conscious, we're not always conscious, are we? I mean, we are not. It's the way we are. And we seek to be more conscious, or certainly more conscious when it's really important. And so with the notion that God is good and all is good, then whatever happens to us, even if it feels like one of those boulders and even a little one, it is all good. And we don't like that sometimes. I don't. And so we seek to deal with it in our minds. Why? How is this good? What is this? It's just not good. That's what it is. And even if we come to the place, and I want to believe I have come to the place that I may know back here it's good, but I'm still not liking it, and I'm moving through that. A recent experience is about 6-7 weeks ago. My computer just froze on a Wednesday morning. And it froze to the point that my book reading, which comes before the service, I had to completely reorganize. I didn't know what was happening, but I had to try and make a shift. And it was a couple of weeks before I at least understood what had happened, because it wasn't something I did. And see, that's an interesting part of what happens that blocks our flow. Some of the times we feel like what is blocking us came from the outside, that we didn't have anything to do with that. And in this case, it literally wasn't something I did. It was something that was just there. Now I deal with the consequences. So it's literally Science of Mind in action, because the consequences are mine to deal with. And so I'm still dealing with it to some degree, but I have more of a handle on it, more moving forward. But do you see what I'm saying? Somebody rear ends you on the freeway, you've done nothing wrong, and all of a sudden you're hit, and you feel you've done nothing wrong. You still got to get your car fixed. You still got to deal with the insurance. So it's not so much what happens to you, it's what are you going to do about it? Are you going to deal with the consequences? Your car, is it totaled? Do I get it fixed? All of that. How do you do that? And how do you stay in the flow while you're dealing with that? Because sometimes it feels like we didn't do anything. Other times we get in our own way. And one of the ways that we get in our own way are through negative emotions like anger, like worry, like fear, like criticism, like complaints. That's just throwing those things out. So the water has to go around and maybe gets dammed up if we don't allow ourselves to take a step back. So one of them, it seems like we have a bit of a choice. We can stop those emotions from going. And the other one, we can figure out the why or not, but we deal with the consequences to the best of our ability. And that is the way life works. And nothing happens to us, even if it wasn't my fault, nothing happens to it except by right of consciousness. Our soul is that part of us, the eternal part of us, that is called, I think Ernest Holmes calls it the seat of memory. And it is a memory of everything that's ever happened anywhere through us, around us. It's that eternal part of us. It's the part that lives forever. It's the part that we carry with us. It is that medium through which life works. But our own soul is only there for our growth, for our moving ever forward to that divinity that we are all born to. So many of those things that happen, our soul wanted that experience for us that we may or may not understand. And I think somewhere I've read we understand by and by, and we understand as we go. So I'm thinking about this notion that the flow is moving to through conscious and individualized expression of God. God works for me by working through me. When we come into this teaching, we may come in almost by accident. Someone said, you ought to go take a look at that center. It's a really nice place to be. Or I've even met people who drive by out on, turn myself around, up and down Prospect, and keep looking at that funny roof, and now we have a nice lighted sign, and they wonder what's going on there, and just walk in. That has happened. And so you come in, and you're open for whatever we have, but something may captivate you so that you stay and you learn more. And people take classes, they're learning things, they're growing, but at some point, I have heard people sat in the practitioner place in front of me and said, I have taken the classes, I've learned all this stuff, and it's just not working. Well, Ernest Holmes said to someone who said to him, I have been needing a job, wanting a job, and I just can't find a job. It's not working. And Ernest Holmes smiled and said, well, yes, it is working. You just said it. I can't find a job. And so it's working for you. And then he goes on to talk about what he wants to do to move through that boulder that's in his flow. But have you heard people say that? I think Reverend Gregory's even talked about that on Sunday. I can't stand that person. Well, of course you can't. And so when you affirm things like that are negative for your experience, you're getting exactly what it is you are putting out there. Does that make sense? It is what we all do. We catch ourselves doing that. And sometimes I've heard people over the years go, counsel, because I didn't mean that. And so it's owning our disease, it's owning our poverty, it's owning our relationship situation, all of those things that we seek. Getting comfortable with what is right now, that's what we're here to do. And to understand how we can make things better. And so for me right now, thinking about staying in the flow and finding ways not only to learn from the things that I didn't seem to order up, that I didn't seem to fill out my form for, that I would like to know what is in there for me. And sometimes when things move through, I actually do know that. It does come to me. You know what? This actually turned out to be a good thing. I would not have thought so. I've had that happen. And it could be I was ignoring some things that happened. And then my consciousness said, you really can't keep ignoring that. And so then it just happens suddenly, and I get to adjust. And How many of us believe we've ignored the signs, the things we needed to do? Yes, I think so. Deepak Chopra says my favorite thing. He says that if you ignore something, you just may get a nudge. If you keep ignoring it, you might get a big shove. But sometimes you get pushed out the window. And so some of us have been pushed out the window before. I think mostly, in my experience, it's more of a big shove. I am blessed in so many things. And one of the easiest things for me to do is to count my blessings no matter what happens. And I cannot count them. I cannot count my blessings. And I know that many of you in here are in the same place. Even if there's a thing that you're upset about, you have to go within and recognize the good that is there for you. And so when you focus on that, your good expands. It's written in many places that the more often we are grateful, we actually get more of that. And so I have found that to be true in my life. And I encourage you to find things to be grateful for. One of the exercises in one of the classes I taught was for the week to literally make time to find even a small thing to be grateful for and spend a couple of minutes doing that. Another assignment was to make sure that you did, one time a day at least, you were overtly, literally kind to someone else. A smile. Give them that gift of yourself. And we're not talking presents and physical presents. We are talking about that notion that I see you and you're real to me and it matters to me. It's easy to do in the grocery store lane if any of us shop anywhere, because not all customers are kind and open. It's so easy to be friendly, to be kind, and to comment on the weather or something pleasant that's going on. I have had experiences, I had one experience in particular, in which I was waiting to be served, and the woman in front of me was really nasty. And so angry about who knows what. And so the clerks, both a bagger and a checker, were trained well. They did everything right, but they were tense. I mean, it was not easy. And so I stepped up to my place and went, I didn't do that on purpose, it's what happened. And I felt like it was pixie dust. I did feel that way because they almost did like that and went back to being regular people. And I thought, how cool is that? How cool is that? Just to change the atmosphere around is such a gift to be able to do that. So in thinking about all of these things, there are a couple of things that have come to my mind. One, early on when I was preparing, I was remembering Daniel Nahmad's song, "Let Me Be Like Water," coming down the mountain into shadowy canyons, jumping from field to pool to stream. And I love that visual, and it makes me smile. And so as I'm thinking about that and thinking about how this happens, I also, going back to this notion of what happens to us and how we move through that, I read, this is something that happened at an entirely different center. It's a center I used to go to a very long time ago. And I read how someone, the minister there, wrote about the situation that he found himself in with one of his congregants' children. She was 10, and she was diagnosed with leukemia. And over a couple of years, she went through a lot of brutal treatment. I mean, you all may know people who've been through that. It can be challenging. It's challenging for the parents watching their child. And it was challenging for the girl. And she was remarkably strong and courageous through this. But at the end, and she was near her end. She was in hospice care, and the minister was in talking to her, and this is what he wrote. a dramatic moment occurred when she asked me, almost in a demanding way, did God give me this cancer? It was the why me question, he writes. Did she do something that made her deserve this? It was the expression coming from her face and so on. Looking her directly in the eye, I found myself saying, and I think he's saying that because God spoke through him in that moment. I found myself saying, no, God didn't give you cancer. God is the loving presence in the midst of it all. Your soul, however, has created this experience of cancer for whatever reason and has within it gifts and blessings. Can you sense what they might be? And the girl went on to talk about her gifts and her blessings and how she had moved through this. And it was, in the end, he describes it, and she was almost seemed to be being on one side and the other near the very end. And she, at one point, she sat up in the bed and she threw her arms out and says, I'm gone. And she passed. Was that easy for her parents? No. But you can imagine over time that they took solace in her own expression of her life and how she went through that. And what's important for all of us to know is no matter what loved one we have and when it happens to us or happens to someone we love, that it is their experience. There's not a Science of Mind class that I've been in over the years that somebody in a basic class doesn't ask, why did this baby live for 3 weeks, 3 days, and then leave? Well, the answer is we don't know. We can't know all of those questions. I think Dr. Moira said, if somebody tries to tell you why, then run away. Because none of us know that for someone else. And so that is that understanding. We need to allow ourselves to allow this individual expression, and we are that individual expression, to move through whatever experience we find ourselves in and allow it to flow. And know that not only is life eternal, love is eternal. It is forever, ever, ever growing and understanding and expressing. And that's who we are. So in Daniel Nabad's song, he says, let me be like water flowing down the mountain into shadowy canyons from streams, to pools. And let me come down through the mountain and enter into the sea. I belong to the sea. And that's where it is. That's that sea of consciousness that we are moving back to, that one vast where the water comes from. And so I believe that all of us have our own crises from time to time. We all do. And it never hurts to get help, to ask for help, and to move through this, but knowing there is a way that we can emerge through whatever happens intact, learning what we learn, loving ourselves. Self-criticism is one of those boulders that just keeps us back. We can look at our lives and think, I could do something differently. That's different to me. I will choose not to do this. but to blame ourselves for what we do, what we say even. I have a T-shirt that I don't believe I've worn. The quotation is from Brian Stevenson. I don't know if you know him. He has an innocence project, and he moves people who are in prisons to innocence, and he's worked with a lot of people in prison. He also has a legacy museum and monument in Montgomery, Alabama that I've been to. That's where I bought the T-shirt. And it says, "I am better than the worst thing I have ever done." And isn't that useful for us to know? No matter what we have said or done or even thought, I'm better than the worst thing I have ever done. So as we let it flow, remember that what happened yesterday is yesterday. Who I am today is the most important thing. And I will let the goodness flow through me and move through me and move me to a higher place than I have been before. And I love the journey as I move through it in gratitude and say, and so it is. Thank you all. You're a wonderful audience. And so it's our pleasure now and our privilege to be able to return to this center some of the wonderful abundance that we have. And all of us are abundant in so many ways. And so we have ways to give that we like to share. I've tried to do all of them just as a practice way. My normal way is to do it online, to send it in, because that's the one I can remember the easiest, but that's just me. And I invite you to consider those things. Have you ever tried scanning the QR code? It's kind of fun. It's really kind of fun to do, and it is quite easy. That first time may take you a bit more, but it is, once you do it, it's done. So you can try doing that. And so we also take that cash, we take that checks, we take all that you're giving to me. We also take your volunteering, and we love for you to give in that way. It's a blessing to you and to others. So let us know that however we give, we will do our affirmation for our giving as we say, divine love consecrates my gift. It goes forth to heal, to bless, and to prosper all of those who give and all who receive. I rejoice in the sharing of my good, and I give my gift with love, and so it is. So as Ruthie, one of our long-term volunteers, stalwart, here whenever the Wednesday comes and the Sunday comes and other days of the week as well. She is a paragon of volunteering. And so I am grateful for all who volunteer, and I know that Vincent mentioned that at part of his announcements, because we never want to, we don't want to ignore volunteers. They make this place happen. So, any questions, any comments, any needs that arise for you? And Mr. Vincent is here with a handy microphone if you want to speak into it. And maybe you're so satisfied you just sit there. And that's okay.
Yesterday I was coming out of Ralph's grocery store, and this elderly man was sitting in a car, and he just looked very confused. And I go, "Are you okay?" He goes, "Do you know where the DMV is?" I go, "Yes." And then he goes, "Can you tell me?" I said, "Sure." And I go down there, and then right there it is. It's not far. He still looked so confused, so I said, "You know what? I can go that way. I'll show you. Just follow me." And so he did, and there he was, and I felt like a hero.
You were. You were a hero, and I'm glad you felt that it was.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, and during the day also, he probably is thinking about me in a good way, and all the goodness helps. All the goodness
It
helps.
absolutely does. And he, in turn, may help someone else too.
Yeah,
That's the
sure.
way it works. It just radiates out. Oh, thank you for that. That's a great, great story. Anyone else? You don't have to, you can have other things. It doesn't have to be a hero story, but you may have a hero story. It is, I like hero stories. But do you know, there's so many small things in which we are heroes. And that is, I celebrate the small things as well.
This is Ann.
Yes.
Reverend Katherine. I just wanted to thank you for your message. I feel very moved by it. And I'm not sure. I was thinking this week how some things come from the unconscious, I think, and some things, I mean, they say that the heart has thoughts too, like the
Right.
brain does. So I'm not sure what is the unconscious and what is the heart thinking, But you touched some part of it, and I feel like I want to go cry someplace, a whole bunch, but something important is happening because of what you shared. And I just wanted to
Thank you.
for that.
Thank you for saying that. That is really a question. I could say that's a deep question. Consciousness. And consciousness it's sort of an elusive thing. And when it's not a bucket, in which things are, it has no content. It is our thinking and our awareness and all of that. And the consciousness doesn't include everything. I know many of you may have seen, see the graphic, I might say. There's this wonderful picture in many places that has an iceberg in the water. And you see this tippy top of it, but underneath you see this vast thing that goes like in the Pacific, very, very deep. And that's our whole consciousness. And the part that's conscious is so small above it. But that doesn't mean we don't have access to the deep. We simply need to call for it. I do think that sometimes in people that I've known, I do believe getting to that has been extremely challenging. Some of the things that drive our behavior seem to me to be things that happened when we were very young. And so we don't remember so much. But it's all there. And so I've met people who had some issues that stemmed from their abuse, actually, in their very, very, very young years, like 2, 3, 4, that kind of thing. So I can't account for that. I do know, just like Tamron was her name, the child, that soul had that experience for her. I do believe we all come here with a purpose. We have a soul experience. And so I don't pretend to understand everyone else's experience. And even when I think I do, I probably should step back, because I can only put my level of understanding on someone else's experience. And I would encourage all of you to take that to heart. We cannot know what someone else has experienced, even if we live with them, even if we think we know them. Does that make sense? We are responsible for ourselves primarily, and yet we go about, just as she did, doing good and spreading those good things all the time. And that part is easy, actually. It is easy. It's easy to smile. It's easy to bring someone a flower. It's easy to do so many things. Pick things up when someone drops it. Open the door. All of those are easy that we can do with a smile. And so I encourage all of us to magnify our good simply by giving it away whenever we can. Thank you. Thank you, Ann. Hi.
Hi, this is my first Wednesday here, and I got the confirmation that I was supposed to be here because you made a comment. You said, even if you were in a car accident and they rear-ended you, that happened to be 2 weeks ago.
Oh, dear.
Literally on Sepulveda and PCH, Sepulveda and Hawthorne Boulevard. But since that time, I have had one thing after the next, after the next. It was even trouble getting here this morning. I was trying to be here at 10:30, get to the car, the key fob doesn't work. I mean, just on and on and on. So it has a actual key that I could use. I lost that. So then I had to go run to O'Reilly's, get a battery. Then I get in the car and find the key. And I'm just like, so I barely made it here. But I'm sitting here going, what? This has been my life especially the last 2 days. And I'm just like, okay. But I sat here and I'm like, just trudging through it. But I'm going, this is a test, I think, because maybe 6 months to a year ago, I would have responded differently. Why is this happening to me? It's always me. Just the world is collapsing. And I've just been kind of like, okay, Lord, here we go. Just go this way. Just go this way. Right. But I just really feel for me right now, I'm being tested as I move to another phase in my life because I see some amazing things coming down the road and I'm so focused on it. It's almost like, let's try to knock her off her game so she can be focused on the negative and not the positive things that's coming. But I thank you because you just kind of grounded me back into just go with the flow.
Well, if I could just ask you a question. When you say I'm being tested, who do you think is testing you?
I don't know.
It's
That's
just
a good.
you.
That's just true.
just
True.
you.
And I think that's valid. And I believe it's just how am I going to respond this time as we move?
Right.
Because many times before I've gotten very close to that pinnacle, and then it doesn't happen because I turn and I'm focused on all the stuff that's coming, and
Right.
And this time I'm like, no, nothing's taking me off where I'm going, what's happening. And so yes, you're right. It's me.
Right.
But when I tell you, it's the craziest stuff. It's just
Right.
like,
Well,
what?
you know what your resolve is now.
Yes.
Is because of that. You have a resolve to move forward in some way. I'm not
Yes.
defining that.
Right.
But everything it all moves through you. There is no outside force to test you other than your own consciousness. That's the way it is. And we use that expression here in this center sometimes. I think God's testing me. I've heard that. Well, the God is within.
Correct.
Absolutely. And it's right here. God is wherever I am. And you. It's amazing how it's all there. And I spent a lot of time imagining, in my own humble way, the fact that every one of us sees everything differently. Just boggles my mind sometimes. Yes, it's David here. That's it. It is that individual way of thinking of things. We can hear the same thing, the same words, and talk about it differently. It's just the way life is. Yes.
Thank you for the service. That was really good. I was inspired yesterday by a woman who broke her spine and needed a ride to Long Beach to her doctor's. And so we were driving along and we're talking so much, we passed the doctor's office about 4 miles away. So I go, that's okay, we'll just turn around. So we turned around and went back. And she was just so inspiring. She was able to walk again now, and she's on the up of her healing now.
Right.
But I really felt a good connection with her.
Yes.
And it was just a nice experience.
Well, sometimes if we are having an uphill experience that might not be physical, but it might be something else, having someone move into our experience who's demonstrating that, all of that works together. I think all of creation is so interwoven and connected, we can't imagine the connections. We really cannot. Every now and again, we get a peek at something which just helps us to expand that concept. It is in your quiet times, and I hope that all of you take quiet yourself, whatever you call it, meditation, contemplation, call it whatever you want, but take that time to just allow those downloads to come. And my personal experience is sometimes they happen in meditation or in contemplation, but other times, not necessarily. I was sharing on my book reading, but I've shared this before. I don't know, time is moving on, and there may be few people who remember Groucho Marx and that black and white TV show called you bet your life or something like bet your life or something like that. And he would say the secret word and you will win $100. So when the couples one of them would say the secret word, this bird would just plop in. And that was the $100. I think it even had it in their little claw. And so that's what happens to me. I have plops like that. It's exactly like that. That's why I remember, I was a kid when I saw that, very young, but I remember it, and that popping in, and I absolutely have those. If anybody else has some, you can share with me later. I just think the plops are great fun. Usually I'm quiet, nobody else is around, but I'm doing something. I'm in the kitchen, usually it seems like. Anyway, I like the plops. Yes, sir.
Good morning, good morning. I just want to say you really hit on life is so beautiful. And when you said Amania, or was it Cameron?
Tamron was her name,
Cameron,
yes.
It makes me think about Kaylin. Yeah, that sort of hurts. That
Yes.
sort of hurts. That was my wife's niece, a very beautiful girl. She happened to come down leukemia also. And, it was devastating. In fact, it's just hard for me to even say it right now. But life is just so beautiful.
Right.
Life is just so beautiful.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
And I know that the minister, his name is David, I know that I love the way he wrote it when he said that what came to me, or what I said, he's not even remotely saying he created those words. They just flowed through him. And there are times in our lives when we allow, when the words, you may not know what the words are. It has happened to me that what came out, I knew was perfect as I was saying it, but I knew that I didn't plan to say it that way. You can use this teaching in every way that you want to use it, in every way. It doesn't have to be a dramatic cure of anything. It can simply be facilitating something that you want to say and that you want it to be right. And not trying to use your ego to fashion the words, but to allow that spirit-lived way of speaking. Isn't that the great notion? That I allow myself to be guided and inspired? I don't know if I always do it, but in that moment, I recognized as the words were coming out that I don't know what I'd planned to say, but it was perfect the way it was. So it is, if I can do it, everybody can do it. There is no special here. No special. We're all special. Anyone else? Got Beverly G down front.
Well, I wasn't going to share, but now I am. Yesterday was a class with Doris and Linda, and it was at Nancy's beautiful home. And it was on herbal and healing and affirmations, and I loved it so much. And I looked out the window, and my daughter's car was parked in the street. And I went, I think that's Jackie. Anyway, it was hilarious because I called and a pedestrian was going by and I said, it's my daughter, can you tap on her window? And she did. And then my daughter was visiting her friend next door to Nancy, who has a physical challenge. And I got to meet her balcony to balcony, and we were going, I said, oh, it's wonderful. And I said, we're all connected. This is synchronicity. And I said, I'm learning about herbs. And she said, I absolutely would love the herbs. And she's having a major, major physical problem, or challenge, I should say. But I love that.
Yes.
It's exactly what you were talking about.
Yeah, the synchronicities that just come into life. They're delightful, and they're almost hard to explain, aren't they? Yeah. So that someone else can feel what you felt. It is, but they're delightful. Yeah. Delightful surprises is one of my favorite little phrases.
And one of the things I liked, and I'm just getting right now, I was paying attention.
Yes. Yes.
I was, and it's through me. So I wanted to share that.
Yes. Stop, look, and listen. That's Mark Ruth's workshop, you know. Listening is a skill that most of us can improve on, by the way. It's not one of our best skills in mass now. Anyone else? Well, you all have been an interesting audience and delightful for me, and I do appreciate it. And I am glad you're here, and come back again, because we will be here doing more things and creating community in the way that Redondo Beach is doing it. So let's celebrate community. Thank you all. What?